On Sunday, or are we taking the weekend off for the 4th?
Well, we'll get to that at the appropriate start.
Oh, here I am just asking questions before the.
Well, the recording
All right.
started. So it's now the June 29th, 2025 Massachusetts Pirate Party member meeting. I'm joined today by Steve and Joe. How are the two of you?
Doing all right.
Uh, Inquisitive and wanting to know questions before the appropriate time.
I'm always happy about that. So, for those of you who are catching this recording, we hope you braved the 100-degree weather we had not that long ago. And now we're just in for a cooler 80s. So, yay. So with that,
Upper 80s. Upper 80s.
upper
Give credit
80s,
where credit is due.
more normal weather. So these meetings occur roughly every 2 weeks. We have scheduled one today, and then we will have another one in 2 weeks, um, because, July 4th holiday and all. But to answer Joe's question at the beginning of this, at the last meeting, uh, we decided to do a pirate news recording on the 6th. I know I'm going to be around, and if anyone else is around and would like to uh, pontificate on the issues of the day, by all means, we could meet at 7 and then record at 7:30, as is our habit. So. So if you're able to join Joe, that'd be great. Steve, you're away, so have a lovely time. Um,
Jamie, I will show up at your house on the 6th randomly.
I mean, if you want, we could just do that. We could
I
set
will
up the
bring you
camera.
lemonade.
I've got new mics. We could test the mics and make sure new wireless mics, so we could test them out.
That would be awesome. I would bring you food and snacks and beverages.
Well, I will be around that whole day. So, as far as I know, though, you never know. It may change. Um, but I'm definitely up to recording. So, moving into our meeting again, if folks want to join this, it's roughly every 2 weeks. You can check the sidebar of masspirates.org, where is the link to how to join, as well as links to the agendas. So you can see uh, when the meetings are. So today is June 29th. I hope everyone has a wonderful 4th coming up. So getting into reports, I guess we covered in the last meeting, but we did have a good time at the Boxborough Fifers Day. Um, but I don't think last week there was much of anything. I was away, so um, did either of you folks get a chance? Do you have any reports?
No, but I do have questions,
Excellent.
specifically aimed at Steve. I was wondering if you could put together or a way to deal with political trolls. Or, in reference to a certain political troll that showed up at a meeting, was very disruptive, and how you think we should handle that moving forward.
So um, I mean, the
Sorry to put you on
more.
the spot, but
Oh no, no, not putting me on a spot. I mean, I think what we did. There's always the approach of when someone behaves badly, ask them to leave, and which is what happened in our case. But I think I was talking with Jamie a little bit about this, and um, you know, for future events, maybe we want to put our code of conduct a little more front and center. But yeah, there's you know jerks are jerks, and jerks will be jerks, and just you should not let yourself get jerked around.
yeah. I know on the national level they've been dealing with some trolls and stuff of that nature as well. So, making sure, could we, for the sign up page, make it the code of conduct right there in people's faces as they're signing up?
I think that would be a reasonable thing to do. Yes. Or, have a required checkbox saying that you agree to the code of conduct.
And with hyperlinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. If you could add that to the notes, Steve, we can update the page. Yeah, I mean, it's you always want to believe that someone showing up is there who wants to further our cause. And I'm the type of person who's just, I've got too many things going on. I don't want to go to someone else's event and like poo-poo what they're doing or rain on their parade or whatever. It's not worth my time. So I don't understand. I mean, to be honest, the person who was there did not see themselves as a troll, but nevertheless, they weren't someone who was necessarily ideologically um, supportive of the pirates, shall we say, and our ideology. So,
Well, I mean, there was some good slivers. There's a thing in martial arts where when you're fighting somebody, and this goes with debates as well, but when you're fighting someone, your enemies will always show you where your weaknesses lie. And that's why I would never shy away from a debate, because if they can stump me, that means that's something that I need to work on. And there was really one good point, which is, what is the responsibility that we expect out of our citizens? What is our duty? And I think part of that I really took from her was that I think it's the duty of all of us to make an informed decision when we come to our voting. And I think that was at least that silver lining of that experience. I mean, it was an experience, to say the least. But people who would be confrontational, um, they're just the preview for what we're going to have to fight against. And so, I took something from that, you know. And even though they they may have very well thought that they were being supportive or being helpful, in their own way, but at least we can get something from that, you know.
I think you're far too gracious. I had about all. I had all. I'm generally a pretty patient person, and mine got wore out pretty quickly. So yeah.
Well, it was spectacular to see you lose your temper. I'm just saying, it was a thing of glory.
all right. Well, thank you for that. Let's move on, if we may. Decisions endorsements. The first section is various Commonwealth bills to review. I put in a section for bills we decided on, but I don't think we've put out all the statements, and I think there's things we're missing. So I'll add those for the next meeting. I also updated some of the links because some of the stuff there was pointing to the wrong years, or bills that don't that don't exist in this term. And I also put in all the decriminalization sex work bills that I got from BSWAC. And I emailed two members for their thoughts on them as well, since they're more knowledgeable about that, about these issues, certainly than I am.
There was another issue that I just linked to the mass pirate chat over on
Mhm.
Signal, and it had to do with the DMV actually selling data to officers. Now, that was
What do you
happening
mean
down in Virginia.
selling data? Can't they just get it them? I thought any
I'm sorry,
officer could just look in the
not
DMV
not
database.
officers. They weren't selling it to officers. They were selling it to private data broker companies.
Oh crap.
Yeah, so that guy's from Virginia. That's a lawyer from Virginia. But if they're doing it down in Virginia, I'm sure they're doing it up here too. So something that might be worth investigating.
Yeah, that would be. I thought they're limited in what they can do with that data and who they can give it to some degree.
Yeah, but once it's
But
out
yes,
there,
it
it's
would be
out
good to
there.
check. It would be good to check. Um, so
Sorry to sidetrack.
no, I think that's good, and I think that's a point to explore. Um, so some of the uh, there were two facial recognition bills that I found. An act to promote transparency of facial recognition in driver's license photos, and an act to implement the recommendations of the Special Commission on Facial Recognition Technology. Um, None of those have had hearings or have hearings scheduled. Um, I went and looked through, I think, all of these, and none of them have had hearings yet, except for H 1278, which did have a hearing back in, I think, May. That is the bill about right to repair of motorized wheelchairs. Um, so I didn't see for H 1278, I didn't see anything about what decision had been made. So, we could certainly, um, contact them and say, yes, we support this. You should support it too. But
Did you hear back from Ricky or Desmond?
uh, Desmond got back to me, uh, and but the email got cut off, so I'm just clarifying that. So hopefully by the next meeting, I'll know, because I would, looking at the bills, they look like ones that we should support, but I just want to make sure there's not something in there that we didn't know about. In a broader, but yeah, in some ways, we really, well, I'll get into, or we can get into how we can promote these later. So are there any bills we'd want to look at this particular moment in time?
You know what? I really want to look at the protecting Massachusetts residents against the federal government surveillance. I think that one's kind of really important and impactful, especially when it comes to the ICE and how they're just going in and nabbing people off the streets, especially people who are here being productive and who are being students.
Well, let's do that. Interesting that it's 2020 official edition that's being updated. All right, so they define a fusion center. And then we've got criminal intelligence system definition for that.
Yeah, the
Information
CIS
and
system.
system. Yeah.
That's
Data
basically
collector.
the database. So it's kind of like the healthcare system has their, like all the healthcare share their stuff. The CIS is what they use to all the different law enforcement agencies use, whether it's a jailhouse to cop cars to. It's just called the CIS. It's their computer interface.
Okay.
So every ticket you've ever had, every time you ran naked through the woods, it's in there, whether you were guilty or not.
Well, only if you're caught. If you run naked through the woods or go skinny dipping late at night, not that I could say anything about that at a pond.
That's why you could say you never answer any questions and you identify as a duck.
I claim my Fifth Amendment right. Um, anyhow, so protected information, political, religious, social views, associations, group association, organization, corporate partnership. Okay.
Yeah, don't be like me and completely waive your Fifth Amendment right and then start singing that you are a model of a major general.
Okay, so now we do section 2A, talks about an annual audit. That's some number of investigations authorized under said paragraph 4 of said subsection B that remain open, the date of initiation of the investigation for each open investigation, the length of time the investigation has remained open, and a justification for continued collection or maintenance of protected information. Yeah, but is this made public?
Most of the stuff in the CIS is actually generally kept. They could be investigating somebody for years, and none of that information's ever going to come out unless they move forward with a charge. They could be watching you for however long it is, trying to build a case, and you just never know it.
Right. Okay, so the report shall include recommendations for corrective action and shall be a public record.
Yeah, once they put in a corrective action. So once they go to hit you with a charge,
No,
that's when
no,
it.
so the yearly audit, like the document that results from that will be a public record.
So that'd be a good FOIA request to slap up on our website.
I mean, once this passes.
Both us and the ACLU might be able to use that.
Am I missing something here? I'm not seeing anything that's. I'm trying to see where it limits federal access to this information or prevents.
Specifying the reasons for dissemination is necessary for a minimum of 5 years. The original law enforcement agency shall maintain a record of such written authorizations, specifying the reason for dissemination is necessary. And they need to log it.
How do we determine accurate? I mean, yeah.
Any violation of this section constitutes injury, and any person may institute proceedings for injunctive relief.
Yeah, but how do they know?
That is a great question.
So I think section 2D might get into that.
Oh, okay. So further down, all right. Wait, so does Section 2F say you could just go to them and be like, hey, I have a Freedom of Information request. Give me all the stuff you have on me.
Yep.
That is how I read it. Yes.
I think we should support this bill. Just from that one little section alone, allows people to say, hey, cops, what do you have in your reports about me?
I wonder if, like, when you do that for the FBI, you'll have to go and be like, yeah, and if there's any relation to this other person or that other person and the other person, here's all their
No, the
affidavits
CIS
that
system.
they want. No, I'm just
CIS
saying, like,
system is nationwide. That's a nationwide system. That
no,
would
I
give you
know,
everything.
well, I know, but I'm just saying the FBI. You can go to the FBI and you can say, give me all the information that you have on me, and they'll redact things that are like, oh, this mentions this person or that person. And because we don't have a privacy authorization from them saying they can give the information, they redact it. And so you have to go and be like, yeah, okay, these other people who I'm connected to, put their information, or not put their information, if there's any information in relation to me that mentions them, you can not redact that.
Well, they do the same thing with when Child Protective Services. They always redact who it reported you for, so that you don't
Sure.
retaliate on them. I
Yep.
mean that if
Yeah.
somebody's going to the cops and being like, James O'Keefe, he's coming every Tuesday to smack me. They're gonna protect the person who's accusing you until there's a charge put against you.
Sure.
I mean,
I mean, that's
the
that's why
cop.
you need. Yeah. Go on. Sorry.
Well, just the other day, the cops spoke to somebody I know, and they were asking him if he'd been knocking and breaking into doors, and they didn't have to really tell him who reported him because even though he did eventually get a FOIA request and got the information, and it showed the person they caught on ring cam. It showed that it wasn't him. So
Hmm.
you know, but the cops didn't have to do that once the investigation was dropped. But they still didn't
Right.
really tell him who said it was him. I mean, it kind of looked like him. It was a dude with long hair, beard, and glasses. So that was tall. So funny story.
So looking at this, it bills itself as an act relative to protecting Massachusetts residents against federal government surveillance. But if I search for federal, I see something in the title, and then I see this section here.
I mean, we may want to ping Alex to get his take on it. I mean, some of the things in here are useful, like being able to request copies of your own information. And the requirement to have a privacy boards whose meetings are public, and training manuals that are available to the public. Sometimes bill titles don't always reflect what's actually in them, but yeah, I don't know. Who's the sponsor? It was Dave Rogers?
David Rogers, yes.
Yeah.
And it's going to be at the Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee. Yeah, I can reach out to Restore the Fourth and ask them what they think of this bill. And then present that at the next meeting, and we can decide yay or nay.
That
Yeah,
sounds good.
sounds great.
All
Could
right.
we also send this one to the list?
Sure.
You can get any feedback.
Yep. I mean, I can send all of them to the list. But yes, we'll focus on this one specifically.
Because it sounds like it could do some good. but it's worded in such a weird way. So
Ain't that the
interesting.
truth? Ain't that the truth? Okay. So, all right. Is there another bill we'd want to look at, or do we move on to the next section?
One bill per session seems to be a good thing.
Okay. So in federal bills to review, I added some stuff on the budget reconciliation bill that apparently has that looks like it's almost through the Senate. But there's some stuff about how this is going to really bloat ICE. And like screw over anyone who's poor and take money away from the poor and give it to the rich in a reverse Robin Hood
Well, not
thing.
only that,
But
but one of the budget cuts cut LiPo. Or are you familiar with what LiPo is?
No.
no.
So LiPo is relatively newer technology that there's two data centers that we basically use 4 mile long lasers to record gravitational waves. Now, there's a lot of noise from all sorts of stuff, including earthquakes and stuff like that, that can interfere with it. But basically, we're cutting for the price of like one F-16. It would run. They're cutting that out. They're cutting one of the centers, and it's basically the price of one F-16 to run a second center, which basically eliminates 99% of the background noise, so that we can tell when it's actually like a gravitational wave versus just like earthquakes or construction or anything else like volcanoes. So one of the things that um we should really support is in keeping the science, so that what happens is when we detect the gravitational waves, we can like pick up what direction it's coming from and turn our satellites to the direction it come from, and further our understanding of space and time and the cosmos in general. And so one of the dangers of these budget cuts is they're just cutting crazy, not realizing what it is they're cutting. Like all the history that we've been putting online in order to keep us informed, because when we forget what it was that where our history is, if we erase our history, then we're doomed to repeat it. So, part of growing, part of being a better society is to learn from our mistakes. A smart person learns from their mistakes, a wise person learns from other people's mistakes. And a lot of the stuff that they're cutting is just things that they shouldn't. But if you look up LIPO, let me see if I can pull it up for you.
Yeah, I'm not finding it. Anyways, while Joe's looking that up, I also we needed a statement on Section 230 for a while of the Communications Decency Act. So I put together this possible statement. Which reads Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, CDA 230, specifically Section 230C, which reads C, protection for Good Samaritan blocking. Now, I won't reiterate all the text, but is the reason we have user shared content on millions of sites around the internet. It is what protects the comment sections of our site and all others on the internet. Efforts to tamper with Section 230 have made people worse off and harmed our First Amendment rights. With FOSTA and SESTA, Congress excluded consensual sex work from Section 230 protections. The resulting law has made consensual sex work more difficult and more dangerous for sex workers while not stopping sex-focused human trafficking. The Massachusetts Pirate Party categorically opposes efforts to exclude any human activity from Section 230 protections or to limit or expire Section 230 protections in whole or in part.
I found it.
Sounds good to me.
Do you want to share the link in the chat, Joe?
Yeah, 1 second.
Okay.
I almost put it as a note. I would have been very sad. Why no work? Copy. Pasta. There we go. This is coming from science.org. It's one of the very effective tools. Oh, it's not LiPo, it's LIGO. Laser
Okay.
gravitational wave observatory. So basically, it would cut one of the centers, which would basically just defeat the whole purpose. Like the two centers are across the United States, but they're close enough where they can talk almost instantly, and it basically helps them kind of sift through all the background noise. And if we cut one of the centers, then the accuracy is going to go from like 90% to basically 1%, making it fairly useless.
I've heard of this thing.
I mean, for science, we believe in the scientific approach, and that's really it really is going to help us. If something big is flying at us in space, like there's a big explosion and it's coming at us, this is going to help us like detect it long before it hits, or at least give us a better understanding of how big cosmic events work. This is not something we should be cutting.
Yeah, I mean, especially since, geez, that's the cost, as you said, of an F-16.
Yeah, the cost of an F-16 will run the center for another 5 years.
I mean, but really, RFK Jr. is going to go get rid of all vaccines and will be dead in 10 years. So it doesn't matter. Sorry. Just, yeah. Yeah, it's just worst timeline ever. Yeah, so I can add this to the agenda.
Maybe we can
Or
post it in the
part of the,
comments.
yeah, budget reconciliation bill and stuff like that. Tell people about it. But kind of getting back to this section 230, Steve, you said you were okay with it. What do you think, Joe?
Section 230.
So this is a statement on supporting Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. This is the law that means that if you have a user-generated content site like YouTube or Facebook or our website, in the case of comments, and someone, so you cannot be held liable if someone uploads a video that people don't like, or someone makes a comment that people don't like, they can't come after you um, as the person who owns, as the person or the company that owns the website on which this comment or video or whatever was submitted. They don't, there's no civil liability, no provider. So section 230 says no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. And then no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be held liable on account of any action voluntarily taken in good faith to restrict access to or availability of material that the provider or user considers to be obscene, lewd, lascivious, filthy, excessively violent, harassing, or otherwise objectionable, whether or not such material is constitutionally protected, or B, any action taken to enable or make available to information content providers or others the technical means to restrict access to material described in paragraph 1. So essentially, this is section 230, specifically 230C. And wrapped around it is that we support it. So, this is
I
the
mean,
relevant section 230, and it is the reason we have user shared content on millions of sites around the internet. It is what protects the comment section of our site and all others on the internet. And then pointing out what happened as a result of FOSTA and SESTA, and said that we oppose efforts to exclude any human activity from Section 230 protections or to limit or expire Section 230 protections in whole or in part.
honestly, that tracks. And as the once great Steve once declared, I fully support people opening mouth and inserting foot. So, if they want to commit political suicide or death by keyboard, I'm all for it. And I don't think that it should be the liability of the websites or the providers if they're not the ones going through publishing everything. So, freedom of speech is a thing. Freedom of idiocy is a thing, and I don't think we should get in the way of that.
Well said. Well said. All right. So, everyone in favor of submitting of adding this
Aye.
to our issues, I guess.
Aye.
And I. Okay, great. So we are at 8:50. We did start a little late. I I don't have. Joe? Do you know of any U.S. Pirate Party issues?
I'm not aware. I have not been keeping up with the U.S. Pirate Party. Has our
Okay.
representative been attending? Do you know?
No, I believe he has been attending. I'll check in with him on that. Oh, by the way, sorry, I didn't mention it. So there's the foreign. This is something we can deal with in 2 weeks, but the Foreign Anti-Digital Piracy Act is yet another way of creating a copyright block. So anyhow, like, well, we can deal with that law later. Okay, so Pirate News will record next Sunday, July 6th. Then, Joe, you and I can be there.
Yep, I'm bringing the dip.
Great. And then 2025 voter outreach. Okay, so we've probably said this in a bunch of places, but I'll say it doesn't matter. I'll say it again. So we figured out from the state we have 721 voters, pirate voters. Of that, I believe 221 are cities and towns that have at least one pirate voter. And I think there's 130 cities and towns that don't have any pirates. We can work to change that. Anyways, and then we've identified the addresses over 300 voters, and we've filed public records requests for all the others. Alec has been doing a great job on that. So we're waiting for the remaining responses. Should be 5 to 10 business days for most of them. Only Boston. I think we contacted Boston over 10 days ago, and they said, "Yeah, we need the 25 business days." So they're
You know,
Boston. So, anyways, so hopefully by the middle of July, we will have had all of our voters. So, sorry, Joe, you were going to say something.
I was gonna say honestly that I think it's a great idea to be mailing out all of our voters and mailing out all the people who are a member of the Pirate Party to, you know, invite them out. I think that's a great idea. I think that's a good thing that we should be doing.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. So anyways, I just did some price calculations, and so I think 720 with printing and bulk rate is like 720 cards. You know, if we did like postcard things, and would be about $220. So if we did that 3 times a year, you know, we're talking $700. Um, so something to think about, but certainly for even if we did it twice a year, that would still be a good thing. Which leads into the 2026 campaigns. So Alec and I are working on the 2026 election plan along with dates of different events. So we can, when we mail out folks, we can be telling them, hey, in this area, you know, in Greenfield, we're going to have an event, or in Springfield or Worcester or wherever, to, you know, give people a heads up about that.
Sounds good.
So hopefully next week, hopefully in 2 weeks, we'll have a draft election plan for folks to look at. I really want to get that done since, you know, it's almost July. So with that, there's nothing else on the agenda. Um,
I think we covered quite a bit. I think this was a really good meeting, and I hope you both have a wonderful 4th, and be safe out there, and I will look forward to meeting up with you on the 6th, Jamie. Motion to
that sounds
adjourn.
good. Aye.
Second, yeah, I.
All right, great. And Joe, I thank you for your last statement. So with that, we are adjourned. I will stop the recording, and everyone, I hope you two have a wonderful evening. Stay cool. And for those of you watching, you know, always check us out at masspirates.org. We'd love your help. 2026 is going to be a great year for pirates, and I know I'm really looking forward to it. So
And
with
have a
that,
lot of fun with your cannons and explosives.
we got to do that boat of yours, Joe.
Yeah, I'm actually taking sail lessons coming up real soon, and you know, I've had some snafus with the boat, so I might have to get a different boat. But you know, I'm still working on becoming a proper captain.
I look forward to sailing in it.
That would be great.
All right. All right. Take care. Bye.